Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Adulting is Easy podcast, where we make adulting easier by making money easier. This is your host, Lauren, and I'm joined today by Justine de Peralta. She's a former teacher turned financial educator on a mission to help women and domestic violence survivors reclaim their confidence and become money smart and body strong. Thanks for joining me, Justine.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Lauren. I'm excited to be here. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you. As we were saying off mic, this has been months of scheduling in the making. So, really excited to have you here.
I'm glad we made it work. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, right? You make it work.
Exactly. Well, and our goal for today is to make adulting easier for our listeners by discussing a personal finance topic, since managing money is a huge part of adulting. Today, Justine, we're going to talk about investing. And I want to ask first, why did you start investing?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little bit of a background story so that y'all know where I'm coming from. Okay, at the time I started investing back in 2017, 2018, just the end of 17 and the beginning of 18. And I was incredibly frustrated with the job that I had. I was a educational consultant at the time. So I had stopped teaching and then I became an educational consultant. And part of my role was to go up and down the state of California and do some traveling outside of California, training teachers, right? And I remember we had a conference, we had a company conference, and they had asked the audience, they basically asked all of us, right? What is something that we can do to help make your life easier, right? In your role. And I was shaking, y'all, because at that point, I was fed up with traveling. I was fed up with the low pay. I was fed up with how I was being treated at the company. And so at that point, I just like stood up and they gave me the microphone and I started shaking, y'all. Like it was literally, I was like shaking. And it was probably one of the ballsiest things I'd ever done. But I picked up that microphone and I was like, if you want to help us, what you can do is you got to help us so we can help you. We need to have better working conditions, higher pay, like more understanding, a better work-life balance. And of course, this is like young Justine, right? This is Justine that's like, well, it, right? Like I'm just gonna say what I want to say. And I got a standing ovation. Like there were like, and this was a packed room of 1,000 something employees all together. And some of these older, trainers, they stood up because they've been in the game for a long time. And I think what I learned is the longer you're in the game, the less you become vocal, right?
Interesting.
Because and especially I think in the world of education, there are so many, and I promise I'm going to get to investing. There are so many teachers or educators who are sick and tired because they are underpaid and they are overworked. And many of them, and when I talk to them, many of them will tell me, I've got 5 years left on my pension.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I've got, Justine, I've got like 3 more years and then I'm out of here. But at that point, you've got educators who are done, who are done. So same goes in that education space. I think that in the ed tech space of training teachers in this software program is that many of them were much older than me. And so many of them were like, "Oh, girl, I ain't saying that in front of these people. Like, I need my job, right?" It's not, it's like that
Yeah.
reality. So I remember saying it. I had a standing ovation, and they came over to me and they took the microphone out of my hand. And I was like, well, then. And I sat down and I was like, what the did I just do? Like, what did I just do? Like, will you have a job, Justine? And that was kind of Lauren, that was it, girl. That was the snowball, more like an avalanche that just kind of like came down. And at that point, I realized because I had people come up to me after and they were like, "You are so ballsy. I would have never done that, but thank you for speaking up on behalf of all of us." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sick and tired." But I will tell you, leading, the months after that became very difficult. And I learned very quickly that speaking up in a corporate environment like that is potentially very dangerous. And so I kept fighting the fight because that's just me. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And then at that point, I started thinking like, okay, I need to find a different job. I need to find something that's gonna like a place that's gonna value me. And one day I got invited to a financial presentation. And when I sat down in that financial presentation, they were talking to me about compound interest, the rule of 72. I was like, what the hell
Yep.
is what is it? What is it? Because I'm over here raised by immigrant parents who taught me how to save like a little squirrel,
Yeah.
save for your house, save for your down payment, and bless my mom and dad, bless them because that's all they had and that's all they knew. And like, hell yeah, they taught me
Okay.
that. I will take it. But me being a little squirrel, that savings account, Boo Boo Bear, was not growing. Okay. It was literally, it was like, okay, how how is this going to help me like escape, or how is this going to make my life better? And that is why I started investing. I was, it was like a combination of like frustration, anger, but then also this like desperation because I wanted out so badly. And this financial presentation introduced me to like how your money can grow and really selling the dream of money is not evil, money is a tool, and your real currency in life is your time. It shook me, girl. It shook me. And that was why I started investing. I was like, okay, so how do I do this? Okay, index fund. And I'm going to be honest, I just went right into the index fund. I went
I am shocked. So that was my next question. Like, what did you invest in? And I thought you were going to be like, I started picking stocks. I started trying options. I tried to get penny stocks. And I'm like, because that's what a lot of people think investing is. But you went straight to like the good, good.
I went in. Okay, but we talk about some financial mistakes, girl. Let's not get it twisted because it's about to happen right now. Okay, so like I straight up went in. I was like, I'm gonna buy an index fund. Okay, it tracks an index. Okay, it was just all confusion, right? But I said, it, I'm doing it. I'm just gonna buy. Just gonna buy. And and I did, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. But there was still no like full explanation of how this was gonna work for me, right? But I did it, and I figured I had put in my mind, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and figure it out as I go. Now I got excited because I was like, okay, how do I do more of this? So then I started looking at individual stocks. I started looking at bonds because there is this part of me that even now at 35 years old, there is still that part of me that is like there is that fear in investing, right? And
Mm.
so I do have bonds right now, right? I have a bond index fund, okay? It's I have it there, and for me psychologically, which I think is so much of money, it's like, oh, okay, it's a little safety net. You know what I mean? Like there's a
Yeah.
little bit of balance up in here. So I'm good with that. But I invest in bonds. I did do options. I did do options, and I did it very early on in my investing journey. And I was like, there were days when I was like, there were days when I was like, oh my God, I made $500. And it was like the most exciting thing. And then I'm like, then I lost another 500, right? And
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like, oh no, 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 no. Like I've been through way too much in my damn life to be on this roller coaster because you got to understand, Lauren, I had just gotten out of a terrible relationship, awful relationship, abusive relationship, which is why I help and I want to help women and domestic violence survivors is where my mission is. But when you are literally trying to survive that roller coaster alone and navigating chaos with not just like love and heartbreak, but with money and you don't know anything, like it is so difficult. So at that point in my life, Lauren, I was done being like in this like emotional roller coaster. So to take it back, when I started doing options, it was that to me. And I don't mean it, I'm not trying to compare it to like, domestic violence or whatnot. But what I'm trying to say is that the emotions that I was going through doing options, it just didn't suit me and it wasn't what I wanted. So therefore, I was like, I'm just going to stop. But I did it for a few months and I thought, okay, this is too much for me. And I also don't have the time to sit here and watch these stocks go up and down, all of that. So that was a long
So,
winded answer.
no, loved it. That's why I didn't interrupt you. When you started investing, did you do it in your retirement accounts? Did you open up a brokerage account? Like, what was that first step you took once you went to this financial presentation and decided to invest?
Oh my God, girl, you're going to laugh. You are going to laugh and everybody else is going to laugh. And I don't talk about this often. It was acorns.
Okay, that's fine.
No, I'm like not even playing. I'm not even playing. I just like I I opened up Acorns because for me, I just didn't know much about investing, brokerage, what, this, that. And they got me. Not that I'm knocking Acorns, but like they got me, especially for someone who was like, oh, I can that saving mentality. Damn, they're called acorns. Like their
I know.
squirrel is a mascot,
I
right?
was about to
That was
say,
me.
if you're a squirrel, acorns makes a lot of sense.
You see what I'm saying? Okay. So there was that for me. I was like, that's me right there, saving up all my money. So the idea of taking spare change and putting it into an investing account, right, really made sense for me. Made sense for me. And I was like, oh, it's tied to an index fund? Oh, okay. Or an ETF. So it just made sense. But then eventually I was like, oh no, wait, there is way better out there. There's so much more for me to learn. But that's how it started, Lauren. It really started with an Acorns investing account. And I'm not, I got no shame in it. Okay. Because Lauren, some of the people that I've worked with, they will come to me and they'll be like, I have an Acorns account. I'm like, can we just bond over that right now? And now let's get you into Vanguard or Fidelity or something else, girl. Because we ain't, bless you, thank you, or Acorns for everything, but it's time to upgrade. But for a lot of people, that's kind of like a low barrier of entry, So I don't knock it. I don't knock
So you're a money coach now, and you focus a lot on domestic violence survivors, which is amazing. And I'm sorry you went through that. And I'm glad that you've overcome it and you're
Thank
helping
you.
others in the same situation. I didn't know you had been in training. Is there a lot of synergies? God, that's such a corporate word. Is there a lot of similarities between the skills that you learned in training and the skills that you use in financial coaching?
Are you talking about financial skills?
Well, just like people skills, I mean, I guess there's a lot. I came from the training space as well, adult
Yeah.
education, the Fortune 1000. That's what I sold training for 10 years. And there's a lot of like adult learning theory and things like that.
Yes.
Like, have you used some of that in your coaching business? Because I feel like there would be alignment there, but maybe there's not.
You know what there is? I mean, there are things I think about as a former teacher, right? When I used to create my lesson plans, I would plan backwards. And it's like a very typical way that teachers plan is that they have that end goal in mind and then they work backwards on how they plan. So that's something that I've adopted when I'm working with my clients. And really taking the time to unpack what it is that you need. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think that is one of probably that's probably one of the hardest things that I or one of the things that I encounter a lot when I start working with clients is that they struggle with goal setting, right? They struggle with goal setting. And then when we start talking to each other, right, and I get to know them, I start to see, okay, it's because you don't necessarily you have a goal in mind, like you want freedom, you want peace, you want all this, but you don't have a sustainable system in place to help you reach your goals. So when I'm working with clients, that's what we really focus on at the very beginning, is like your money mindset and that goal setting piece of like, okay, we need to unpack what is it that you need, and then how do we work backwards to get there and make it a system that is sustainable. Because that's the second issue that I see or note, or like I will notice, is that they start and then they quit shortly after, right? Or they come up with an excuse that say, I can't do this anymore. Like, oh, this, and that. And it's like, okay, but how do we still keep you engaged? So does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Are there any themes that you're seeing with your clients? Are there any similar goals, similar whys, similar drives that you're seeing right now?
Well, now, right? With the specific like population that I'm working with, many of them are just like, I don't know where to start. Like, I just don't know where to start, Justine. Like, what if I'm only making this amount of money? Can I do this? Can I invest? Can I save? Can I pay down debt? And so it's really that question of, I don't know where to start. And so when I sit down with a client, right, one of the first things that I tell them is, moving forward, I need you to remove the word perfect from your vocabulary. I need you to remove that. Because when you're trying, there's no such thing as perfection. In my books, there's no such thing as perfection. I believe in progress. And I'm sure you've heard that from people, right? In the financial space. Remove the word perfect from your vocabulary. I just need you to start and get on base. You just got to start swinging until you hit the ball. And when you hit the ball, you just get onto first base. I think what's so overwhelming is like, you don't know where to start because you're thinking of the forest instead of thinking of like the trees, the leaves, the smaller details, right? And sometimes that can be incredibly scary for people and incredibly overwhelming, especially when you are in a situation where you're trying to get out of this abusive relationship, you're trying to get out of this marriage that is not good for you, right? Or not serving you. And so you got to remove perfect from your vocabulary so that you can start, right? I think perfection is often a road, is like a barrier to starting, for sure.
Do you teach your clients some financial concepts too through the process?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's like so much to talk about, right? There's so much to talk about. First thing is, it's not perhaps a technical financial concept, but it's your money mindset, right? How are you talking to yourself? I was actually sitting down with a client last week, and we were working together, and I told them straight up, I was like, I need you to be honest with me in order for me to help you. But more important, I need you to be honest with yourself and where you're at right now so that we can do this together. Because there have been times where someone will like omit information and we're like halfway through. It's like, girl, what? Okay, we have to go back now. We go. So, you know what I mean? Like, okay, we
Well,
can fix it.
it's not like, I'm sure it's not lying. I'm sure it's not super intentional. Maybe it comes from a place of shame, some debt they don't want to admit, or some mistake that they don't want to own up to because it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to maybe say it out loud and they haven't come to terms with it. I could see that happening. So that's interesting. As many people as I've ever had on this podcast, I don't think we use the word honesty enough, and honesty with ourselves. And then, of course, your financial coaches, therapists, counselors, people in your life that you are trusting with your money, you need to trust them
Yeah.
with really every portion of it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It I was working with a client a couple months ago, and she was like, Justine, you realize that you have seen me naked financially? I was
Uh,
like, 39 years old, taking care of her mother, it's like, but also trying to get a retirement savings. It was just this, I was like, damn, I think to hear it like that really puts things into perspective, like the kind of work that I'm doing and like how vulnerable these women are, right? And she was like, "You have seen me financially naked. Like it is," and she's hilarious. She has a good sense of humor. She's like, "It is a lot easier for me to get naked in front of someone, but not financially naked." And I was like, "Oh," and I think talking about money is still taboo, right? Like it's
Yeah.
still really difficult. There's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt. And then you throw in cultural factors, you throw in like political factors, whatnot. It's a hard thing to navigate. And so that's why um, money mindset is a concept that I do teach and I focus on before we start going into the technical of compound interest, budgeting, seeing where your money is coming from, where is it going, understanding those concepts. I love investing, but Lauren, it's not going to be the first thing that I tell a DV survivor to like start doing. It's just not, because many of them just they have a little to no credit score, they've got little to no savings, they have, some of them don't have jobs, some of them, you know what I mean, like there's
Yeah.
just so much more to tackle. And of course, I send them like, please, if you can, go see therapy. Like,
Yeah.
there are self help centers, that legal centers in you look it up on your states, in your state, but there are self-help legal centers where these lawyers are doing work pro bono, but will help you file for divorce, will help you with child custody, will help you with housing, evictions. They are out there. So it's just like making sure you get the help and you know where to go. But yeah, we got to be honest with ourselves. I think that's especially in a world where everyone's like posting all this stuff on the
Yeah.
internet and whatnot, like, you know,
Yeah.
well, I could talk all day about that.
You can't have financial health without the mental health side. But I also wanted to ask you about physical health. I
Mm.
mean, you're known online as Miss Financial Fitness. So I wanted to ask you, what's the relationship between financial health and physical health?
Yeah. So story time really quickly again, right? They're all
Yeah,
tied.
I'm here
It's
for it.
like,
Hold on,
it's all
wait. Let me
tied.
put my feet up. Hold on. All right. Okay, go ahead.
So when I left, when I left my abusive relationship, I left the apartment with that person. I was like, I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going down the middle and splitting property. I'm not doing any of this. I'm not. I'm like, I need to get the fuck out. I need to get out. And so I ended up moving into this like 100 square foot cottage. Girl, smaller than this office room right now that I'm in. Had a futon bed, mini fridge. It was like, I will take it. I remember begging the landlord, please, please, please. And thankfully, he let me move in. And it was in that cottage, and I promise I'm going to get to the whole movement piece and physical health. It was in that cottage that I started my healing process, because I physically took myself out of that unsafe space. And I was now trying to focus on building me again. And so I grew up an athlete, but I don't know, I don't know, Lauren, if maybe you can relate, but just like being with someone where you kind of just like lose yourself, right? You completely lost yourself. You stop doing the things that you love, or you forget about the things that you love. And I would work out. I grew up an athlete. I gave up all of that, like I just lost it. So a part of me was like, I need to start feeling physically good about myself right now, because I I won't be able to see clearly or think clearly without moving my body, right? And so I like to say that movement saved my life, because while I was living in that college and I was healing, I started going on like, I called them silent Sundays. I literally called them silent Sundays. And I would text my mom, my dad, and and let them know like, hey, I'm gonna go hiking at this mountain at this national park on Sunday. I'm letting you know, but I'm not gonna answer any phone calls, texts, nothing. I just like turned off my phone or my notifications, and I'm just gonna spend time in nature. And so I would spend all of Sunday by myself in the woods, in on the mountain, hiking by the river, whatever I could do to just move my body. And it was in that time by myself that I did a lot of reflection, and just trying to find out what I loved about myself again. Right. So it was this whole ordeal. And so I categorize movement into two things. There are two types of movement. There's that mental movement, and then there's that physical movement. Right. So that mental movement is believing in yourself, right? What are you doing up here to make yourself a better person, right? So are you, is it the way you talk to yourself? Is it positive talk, self-talk? Is it, I can do this versus I can't do this, right? So it's like it's your perspective on getting better, right? That's that mental movement. I want to keep going. I want to keep going. Then there's the physical movement of actually moving your body. And so for me, I've always felt good moving my body physically, whether it's going for a walk. If I got to do 10 jumping jacks, I'm gonna do it. If I'm just going, whatever I can do. If I'm unable to walk, do I just like move my arms around? Like, what do I do to just move my body and get that blood flowing and generating? So I do post a lot about health and wealth because I think it's very important. And one thing my mom always taught me was that you won't be able to enjoy your wealth if you're not healthy. So, and that's like something that I hold true to myself as well, for sure.
Yeah, you're painting this picture for me, and I feel like I'm like in that cottage with you as we're talking, and it's like I think in 100 square feet, you would definitely also want to be outside. Like you'd
Yeah.
be like, I can't. There's only so much that I can do in here. And so it's interesting that and I'm always thinking about real estate, like the physical size of the small cottage maybe even played a part in forcing you outside a little bit, I wonder.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, first of all, when your refrigerator is a mini fridge
Yeah.
and your girl loves to cook, that was another thing too. Like I was just, again, falling in love with cooking again for myself, not for this other person anymore. You know how hard that transition is? It's crazy. Some people might be thinking like, what do you mean? But to really put in your mind that you are now alone, not, and there were times I was alone and lonely, but that transition of being lonely to just happy in my peace came from that small little space. Really, like just falling in love with cooking for myself again. Okay, I'm gonna go outside and I gotta walk to the laundromat, which was literally across the street. Let me just carry that over. So there was just a lot of movement that was like physically happening, but also here. So I say it, and I'm sure you've seen me post it, but the longest relationship you're ever gonna be in is with yourself. And so the better you know yourself, the more confident you become. And the more confident you become, the better you are at making healthy decisions for your life. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I
If
think
you
there's
can
a
better
strong connection.
yourself, if you better yourself mentally and physically, I feel like the financial health will follow too. Like I don't think you can't, I don't think start there. You have to be
Right.
on a good mental and physical journey as well.
Oh, 100%. I think that's why I'm like, oh, I need to just get good here. Because if I'm angry, I'm upset, I might make an irrational decision when it comes to my money, right? Oh, this sounds like silly, but there's this watch that I really want, right? I want it, but I don't need it, but I want it. And in my mind, I think to myself, I'm like, this has to come from a place of like a good, happy place of purchasing this watch, right? It's a Garmin. It's for running, right? Like I want a Garmin watch. But I think it's like I want to buy it knowing that I'm in a good headspace and not because it's like everyone has one or,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. You get it,
Yeah. Oh, it'll make me feel better if I buy that watch. Like you don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't. And I think it takes a lot of confidence and also just knowing myself, like, wait a second, Justine, because if you buy that now, girl, you're probably gonna feel bad. right? So it's just, I know myself enough to be like, buy it when you deserve it, when you're ready for it, you know?
Are there any last words of encouragement you could share for people who are just getting started on their financial journey?
Okay, Lauren, I've got a few, if that's okay.
Sure. Go right ahead.
First and foremost, be kind to yourself. I can't stress this enough. It may be something that some people might not think about, but like, you've got to be kind to yourself. Understand that you've made some financial mistakes, but there's room to change it, right? Like, stop carrying luggage from your past and bring it into your future. If I could list all my financial mistakes that I made, Lauren, I would totally share that with you guys, but we'd be here for another 30 or so minutes. Okay. So be kind to yourself. Remove, as I mentioned, like, remove perfect from your vocabulary and just start. Just start and figure it out along the way. Your point is that you want to sell it, you want to make those small steps before you take those giant leaps. So that's what I would say. And like, ask for help. Ask for help. Like, if you don't know a thing or two about real estate, go to someone that knows something about real estate, right? Like, go to Lauren here.
Yeah.
Like, I would, you know what I mean? Or if you think you need like an accountability partner, find a friend that you trust and you feel safe with and start your journey with them. Go to a financial money coach if you need that coaching, you want that like one-on-one time with them, right? Ask for help. There's no shame in that. um like, you don't have to suffer in silence.
Is there
That's
anything
what
else you
I'd
want
say.
to add before we wrap up?
I First of all, I'm just this was very fun. This was incredibly awesome. This was nice. If you have questions, everyone, please reach out. Happy to connect, on Twitter at Miss Financial Fit, on Instagram, Miss Financial Fitness. That's where I find you'll see a lot of my like running, working out, and I tie that in with money on my Instagram account. And I'm releasing a book later this year, and it's really going to be focused on um, a financial escape plan for when you are in those really difficult relationships, and how to prepare yourself and how to get out of it. So, super excited about that.
Looking forward to that. And I'm sure you'll put information on your website. So I'll put that in the show notes as well, along with your social media links. You all can follow me on Twitter at Adulting is Easy, on YouTube at Adulting is Easy, Instagram at Adulting is Easy Real. If you like this episode, you may also like episode 94 called What Even Is Financial Coaching? And their episode 161 and 162 are sort of about the mental health side of personal finance. So you may like those as well. Only a couple of weeks ago if you haven't listened. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Hopefully, Justine and I have made adulting a little easier for you.